Hello and welcome. Our guest today is Helen Zahos, nurse, paramedic and aid worker. Helen, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Now Helen, can you tell me a little bit about your background and where you come from?
I'm Greek-Australian, so I was actually born here in Australia. I grew up in Darwin and lived on Groote Eylandt for a lot of years. But my parents are Greek, so they migrated across about 40 years ago.
Okay, very interesting. Now Helen, would you be able to give us an idea as to when you first figured out that you would like to step in to doing humanitarian work, and what brought you to that place?
Sure, so I've only just returned back from overseas from doing or working in the refugee crisis, and it was in August of last year that I saw a lot of images on social media, and because I have worked on Christmas Island and in Nauru and worked closely with refugee people, and I've had the opportunity to listen to their stories, I felt compelled, I suppose, to go over and help. Being Greek, of course, there was thousands of refugees flooding the Greek islands. So
I suppose you felt a certain amount of responsibility due to your ethnicity and...
That's right.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, Helen, could you help me understand what sort of work you did over there?
Sure. So I was actually part of a volunteer organisation, Médecins du Monde, because I'm a nurse and a paramedic. It was a medical team that I was involved with on Lesbos Island and also up on the border of Fyrom and of Greece. And yeah, like I said, we were part of a medical team. So we had registration camps where thousands of people waited to be registered, and we medically treated them. We also assisted in the boat arrivals of the refugees arriving on the island as well.
So what exactly were the conditions for the people there that you were working with?
Sure. Look, at the time and also at present, it's probably worse now. The situation's quite dire over there. The conditions, the amount of refugees that have come in, the local authorities can't cope with. So in terms of sanitation, food, somewhere for people to sleep, there isn't enough.
Right.
So at the moment during winter we found people sleeping out in the cold, not being able to access food and running water. So it's been quite a problem.
Is there any story that you can tell me that can help us better understand what it's like for these people?
I think, when I think back, there's so many stories and horrific stories that I often heard. But for me, I was standing outside the clinic one day, and if you can imagine, thousands of people had been standing out in the rain. And I was just blowing some bubbles for some kids, and they were all playing. And a mother started crying, and she just said to me, "Look, thank you." And I said, "Thank you for what?" And she said, "This is the first time in 6 months that my little boy has been able to play outside. We were running away from bombs, we were running away from gunfire." And she was a teacher, and her husband was a lawyer. So,
wow,
it was
it would have had a lot of impact on your life.
That's right.
Yeah,
hearing a lot of these stories.
Exactly. Now, Helen, if there is one thing that you could say to the world, based on your experiences about the crisis that you've had to deal with over in Greece, what would you like to say?
Look, I think first and foremost, it's important for people to realise that these refugees are human beings. They are like you and me. They had careers, they had jobs, they were educated, they had homes, and because of the war and having to flee at gunpoint, they've left under horrific circumstances. So really, that could be you or I. I think the other thing to remember as well is this is probably the biggest humanitarian crisis that's ever existed, and it's surpassed now what occurred in World War II. Right. So the world needs to stand up and take note. This is history in the making right now.
Thank you very, very much, Helen, for your input. We really appreciate you coming here.
Thank you.